is Making Sense of Movies. I'm Alaina.
I'm Claire.
And today we're talking about our top 5 movies of the decade.
Because, we're entering a new decade, so
yeah, 2019 is going to be over. The 2020 decade is going to start.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
lots of new movies coming up, but lots of old movies to look back on. So we're gonna just go over.
Just a disclaimer: these are like Claire and mine's top 5 movies. These are also movies we haven't talked about before. So some of like my personal favorite movies, we didn't want to like talk about them again. So these are movies that we thought were the best of the decade. Obviously, people have different tastes and different lists. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna start with the most recent film. So the most recent is gonna be Knives Out, which is directed by Rian Johnson. If you don't know, did the most recent Star Wars film.
Oh, we remember that one. And people won't forget about that.
You won't forget.
It almost tainted Rian Johnson's career.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Low-key, I didn't know he had a career before Star Wars, but then I looked at his IMDb and I was like, like he made other movies.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Star Wars. We're going to Knives Out. This came out this year in Thanksgiving. That's when I saw it.
Yeah.
And it's basically like a whodunit.
Mm-hmm.
Except like all the rich white people get their comeuppance. And it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
No, I love whodunit movies, and I was nervous for this one at first because you get to a point in the movie where you know who did it. And I'm like,
I was not expecting that.
What the heck's going to happen from here?
Yeah.
But they really pulled through. I just felt like all the characters were so fun to watch.
They were.
The dynamics between each other and just their inner, what they were thinking, and how the main girl, her name,
it's Anna de Armas, that's the actress.
Marta. Yeah.
So if you don't know the plot, basically it's Christopher Plummer plays the patriarch of this really rich family. He had sold all these mystery books, and he dies. And at first it's ruled as a suicide, but a private detective played by Daniel Craig in a great southern accent.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot what his name in the movie is, but he comes, he's like, nah, it's not suicide, it's murder, because someone we don't know hired him to investigate it. And he kind of teams up with the local cops, played by Lakeith Stanfield, and then this other guy I don't know about, but let's go with that. And then they also kind of team up with his nurse, played by Anna de Armas, who, her name in the film is Marta. So they're kind of all trying to figure it out while the family is all bickering with each other. And everyone in the family has a motive of why they would kill the patriarch of this family. So it was really good.
Basically a story of just how a family is corrupted by money.
Yeah. Money ruins everything, clearly.
And the Christopher Plummer's character recognized that was happening to his family. And was trying to...
He cut them basically off at the end. And then in his will, he changed it where he gives all of the money to Marta. And I think it's so funny because in the beginning of the film, they're all like, oh, Marta, you're basically part of the family. She's been, Christopher Plummer's, I forgot his name in the movie, his nurse for 5 years. They have a very close relationship compared to literally everyone else in his family. He's not really close with anyone else, but he does, he has a very close relationship with Marta, and he gives all of his money and his mansion to Marta, and the entire family, all of a sudden, they turn because they don't have any income anymore. None of them had, real jobs. It was really good.
One of the scenes that I really liked is the whole not the whole family, but some of the family members were talking about immigration and having a conversation about, what's the right way for an immigrant to get into the country? And one of the main things was, Marta, she was an illegal immigrant.
Her mother was an illegal immigrant.
And there's one part where the one guy is, totally kind of bashing immigrants, and then at the same time is handing her his cup.
Yeah.
Like a servant. I was just like, oh my gosh.
There's definitely
just such a messed up family.
I wouldn't even say undertones. It's just overt tones of clearly Rian Johnson had something to say, but he didn't do it in a way where you were like, oh great, this is a movie about, a stance on immigration or a stance on, white capitalist society. It was a fun whodunit, but it also plays with those themes really well.
He didn't beat you over the head with it, which is sometimes overwhelming.
Yeah, it was well done. I'm trying to think. Also, Chris Evans is in this movie. He wears a great white sweater.
I knew you were going to say something about the sweater.
His sweater is incredible. I really wish I had it. He looks great. He plays the grandson. He's named Ransom. And spoiler alert, he's the villain of our movie. He actually, so in the not even halfway, I want to say maybe like 45 minutes into it maybe, you figure out that Marta believes she was the one to kill Christopher Plummer's character because she mixed up his medication. She was giving him morphine and something else, and she accidentally gave him too much morphine. And instead of calling 911, Christopher Plummer's character, who, you know, is this big mystery writer writer, is like, no, you go, I'll slit my throat, and you'll have to come back, and, like, has this whole plan to seem as if he died later in the night and not before. And then you figure out that Ranson switched the medication, and that's why she thought she was giving him the wrong one, because he switched the labels.
But she was such a good nurse that she recognized, and since one weighed more than the other, she just by default picked up the right one.
Right one, and you realize he didn't need to die. If she had just called 911, he would have lived. And, like, that was also, like, a gut punch, where it's like, like he didn't need to die. He didn't need to do any of this. And then, you know, it was his own pride that, you know, killed him. I mean, he could have lived longer. He was old, but, like, still.
And the other thing I love about this movie, though, is that Daniel Craig's character, you can't tell if he's, like, completely competent, totally on top of it, or just has no freaking idea what's going on.
Because there's points where he's just, like, asking questions. They're like, why are you here? He's like, avoiding it. Or he's like, it's a hole within a donut hole.
Yeah, a lot of good lines.
He's singing. He's, like, at one point he's in the car and he's just, like, singing to music. Like, and then it's literally not till the end of the movie where he's the one who figures out, like, Ranson was the one to do this. Where you're like, oh, like, maybe he's actually a good detective. Like, he's very reminiscent of that guy from the Orient Express.
Oh, Kenneth Branagh's character.
Yeah, his character. Like, they're very, I think, in the same vein of this, like, male detective, you know, famous detective.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh's character, though, was a lot more on top of it than Daniel Craig.
Yeah, but I think that gave it, like, humor.
Oh, definitely. And actually Rian Johnson talked about having Daniel Craig back for a sequel, not of this particular story, like, not continuing the story, but putting him in another murder mystery, or, like, a mystery.
I would see that.
Yeah.
He was actually really good, and, like, for some reason I just don't see Daniel Craig, like, outside of, like, 007, like, James Bond. But he did a movie called Logan Lucky, where he also plays kind of like a dumb, like, Southern guy, and I feel like he has a knack for it. Like, he's good at it.
No, I'm glad he gets to, like, stretch his, like, comedic chops in this.
Yeah,
because
he's funnier than you think he is.
Yeah.
He seems so serious all the time.
No, I totally agree. Anything else you have to say about Knives Out?
I highly recommend. We mentioned it in our last podcast when we talked about Clue. It's a really funny kind of, you know, contemporary murder mystery that, you know, I like did not see it coming.
Yeah.
Even when, like, I was like, oh, of course it's not a suicide, but I didn't figure, like, oh, that's how he died or that's how everything was gonna end up. So I was very well surprised and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it wasn't one of those murders where it's like, oh, no one could have ever guessed that. It's like, it was set up in a way that, like, this makes sense and they're just not pulling something random out at the very end. Like, if you could watch this again, which I haven't been able to since it's in theaters, you could probably, like, there's clues and stuff that it was Chris Evans' character who did it.
Yeah.
One more important thing,
What?
they are having showings of Knives Out that are all ugly sweater themed. So everyone's been going just in ugly sweaters, and I think that's really cute, and I love that.
Oh, I think that's adorable.
Yeah.
It's a good marketing tool, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that concludes our first top movie of the decade. Let's go to number 4.
All right, next we're going to talk about Annihilation.
Annihilation. So I had not seen Annihilation before. Claire was the one who picked this movie, and I had decided for this podcast I'd watched it for the first time. As someone who has been, like, science, like, my major is quite in the STEM field, I did appreciate this movie. It was really well done.
Thank you. That's one of the reasons I really liked it. I really love just, like, you know, women characters in STEM, and it's not like, they felt very humanized. Like, that wasn't their only personality trait, you know?
This is based off a book, and I read that the book is literally completely different from the movie.
Oh.
Like, what they took from the book was that feeling, like, it wasn't even called the shimmer in the book. So if you don't know what Annihilation is about, it's about 5 women, a biologist, psychologist, paramedic, surveyor, sociologist, and a physicist. And they go into this area that you see in the beginning of the movie that, like, some meteoroid from space crashed, and there's all these weird things going on. And they're, like, this one party that had gone in, and different parties had gone in, but they've died.
And a lot of military parties. So this is why they're sending.
They send. I think in the book it's the first all female, and it seems like that way in the movie. They seem to only show male people going in, and they're also all scientists, which is why it's a little different. And they basically go in to see what's going on, and like what's happening, and why no one else has come back alive. And I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, but in the movie, it's like, the way it works, this Area X, which is where they go into in the film, like it's described much differently. Okay. So it was and also the plot's really different. But I really liked it.
Yeah, I love the way just everything looked. It was very, they took a lot from 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it was very, almost like you're in a lava lamp, you know?
Yeah, it was a lot of like this rainbow shimmer. Like the water had a reflective, and I watched a video where they said it looked as if it was like soap in water. Yeah. That like rainbow shimmer. That was really cool. And that like kind of gave it this otherworldly thing. Yeah. And throughout the whole movie, like I couldn't understand, but they did a really good job where I was in a constant state of nerves and like disgust. Oh. So throughout the whole film, you see all these different mutations. And I couldn't really understand why I was feeling this way. And I realized because it's all so unnatural. Yeah. The mutations, like the flowers are blooming and they're all from the same branch, that they're all different flowers. The animals are like mutating in like vast different ways, where like they're crossbreeding with different species, which is like they're all not which is like impossible in real life. And everything just looked unnatural, and that way, like it just made me feel like I don't understand what's going on. And I don't know, like there were points where I was like cringing at the movie. I was like, I don't understand, like because and also it flashes forward to Natalie Portman's character. She's the main character. She's the biologist. How she's being interviewed. So right in the bat, you know she's the only survivor. So when you watch them go in, you know the other 4 women die. You just don't know how. It
just makes it so much more nerve-wracking. And just that, and the music, which is just like
the music really was really
harsh
good.
Overtone.
Yeah, the visuals and the music do a really good job of setting this very like uncomfortable, unnatural tone where you're supposed to be on edge the whole time. And, like, there wasn't a point where it stopped. Where there's always, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, no, I was feeling that same way. But for a lot of the time, I was just... I felt the opposite way. I thought it was just all very common. Because I really liked going through and, like, seeing from their eyes, like, oh, this is, like... It's unnatural, but it's, like, such a beautiful nature. And look at the weird humanoid flowers.
It was, like, beautiful in a way. And, yeah, it was, like, beautiful, but also, like, disturbing. But yeah, there was one point in the film they go to, I guess what was an area where people lived, because they did say they evacuated like a swamp populated area, and there are all these people that are not even people, they're all these flowers that are shaped like people, and that's when the physicist says if you test these flowers, they probably have human Hox genes, which are genes that humans have to do like the structure. And everyone's like, that's crazy, and I'm like, and that was my one thing where I was like, why do they keep saying things this crazy? Like, literally look at where they are.
Yeah, like, you don't just get attacked by, like, some mutated alligator and just be like, oh, that's crazy, these flowers.
These flowers are crazy. Like, that's the least crazy thing that was going on.
Okay, wait, can we talk about the bear scene? The bear scene!
Oh, okay, so if you've seen, I have to say this, if you have seen The Hunger Games Catching Fire, the second movie, there's these birds that mimic someone's voice. And the bear compared to the birds literally could fucking kill the birds. Yeah. The voices there mean nothing. So there are 4 of them left. One of them had died by being killed by this bear when they were, I don't think it's a bear. I think it's like a pig also. It's like a weird combination.
But there was one girl who was like killed earlier, but no one saw it except for 2 of the girls.
2 of the girls. So the whole 2 of the girls saw it, and then Natalie Portman's character saw the dead body and was like confirmed she's dead. And then they go to this other house, and Gina Rodriguez's character, who she's also really well done. She before they find this video made by the other expeditions, and they basically what they do is that they cut out this guy's stomach, and you can see these like worms moving, like literally like slithering.
It was
throughout.
gross. I hated that part.
They find his body, and it's so, I don't know how to describe it. It's like there are these flowers and moss and
it's mosaic.
fungus.
It's like becoming part of the
part of
environment.
it, and it was like his body. He obviously died, but he was, preserved in this moss and flowers, and it was beautiful yet highly disturbing. So Gina Rodriguez's character, she's like, I can see my fingerprints moving, and she's like, if you cut me open, will I be like that guy? And she starts to get really paranoid. So she ties up the other 3 women, and she's like, yo, like, what happened to the other girl? She clearly, like, I didn't see her die. The physicist didn't see her die. You were the only 2 people. Like, what if we're all just hallucinating? Because there were 2 theories why everyone else had died. Mm-hmm. Either there were weird creatures in Area X that was killing them, or they all went crazy and they died.
Mm-hmm. And this was at the same point where she had found the locket with the only other surviving military guy, and it was obviously, like, Oscar Isaac, who's her husband.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention that. The biologist goes in because her husband came back.
Yeah.
But he, like, doesn't remember how he got there, and he's really, really sick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's going. She wants to see if she can help him. And then Gina Rodriguez's character finds this out, and she's like, nah, you're lying to me. Like, let's go. And then all of a sudden, you hear the 5th girl's voice.
Just screaming.
And what did I wrote? I'm like, wait. Like, I really wrote who was yelling. Like, we saw her dead body. That can't be her. And then all of a sudden, she gets attacked. And then there's this bear paw creature, and its face, it's like, it has like the skull of like a polar bear, and you can see its like mouth, it's like protruded out. You can see the bone, but you can also see it has fur. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
And when it roars, it not only does it roar, it has the voice of the woman that the bear killed. So it's so disturbing.
Oh, and it's just so close to her face, and it just like, it makes you just so nervous.
Yeah, I wrote Sarah sickening in my notes. So I was like, because also, I think what also made sickening was that it still roared like a bear.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just her voice that was coming out. It would have, like, the first part would be a roar, and then it would have her yell, like, as if she's in pain.
Yeah, you know what? Such good sound editing from
Such good sound editing
and such good visual effects. I don't think it won. Or I don't know if it was nominated for anything, but it really should have been. It should have gotten more credit.
I feel like this movie did not get
credit. It was very much overlooked.
So then, after also Gina Rodriguez's character dies, there were 3, and then the physicist just becomes one of the human flower, which it makes me think: are those other flower things human too?
Maybe.
Did she have a choice? I was very confused by that.
I think that was her choice because one of the main subjects in this is that the reason she made it out alive is because she had a reason to, and none of the other girls had a reason to leave, and
they didn't have anyone waiting for them.
Mm-hmm.
So the physicist is like, she's like, I don't have anything here. Like, I don't want to go to the lighthouse. Like, I have nothing back for me. And then she like walks away, and then you see like at least 10 or 15 like human flower people that are like super beautiful, but also like you kind of realize that these were human beings. These weren't flowers that were eerie. that were grown to look like people. They were people that became these like flower sculptures. It was
I'm trying to think what else. Well, then there's the ending at the lighthouse.
Yeah, the lighthouse. The one thing I did like was that the lighthouse was so white, and everything else in the movie was incredibly colorful.
Yeah.
So you have that really dark contrast. And then in the lighthouse, which is where our final character, both two characters go, which is Jennifer Jason Leigh and Natalie Portman. They go separately, but Natalie Portman basically goes to meet Jennifer Jason Leigh. And they see this charred body and a video camera. And you're like, cool, gotta figure out what happened. And then it's like Oscar Isaac, who's her husband, talking to the camera, and I don't know why he has the weirdest southern accent.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
I don't know, maybe this time when I was watching it, like, literally, I was like, he didn't have an accent until this point. Like, I'm
if DNA is just going everywhere in this place, maybe he got some, I don't know, southern DNA.
I was so confused. I was like, where did this accent come? Like, I literally wrote accent ? What did that even, like, who, and then, so basically he's talking in the camera, and he's like, my mind and my body is like it's no longer the same. Like he can feel kind of like those worms moving like in the previous like guy, and he's like, my mind, like I don't know what's real anymore, basically. And he's like, oh, make sure to go to Lena, and you're like, oh shit, he's like talking to someone, and you realize like he blows himself up. He used to charred body. You realize that he was talking to a clone of himself.
Yeah.
Which is creepy. It was like weird. And I realized that's the clone that Lena saw in the beginning. Oh, Lena is Natalie Portman's character. I keep referring to her as Natalie Portman. Yeah, so like.
So in the end, she ends up going back and kind of just accepting that like the clone, like it seems like she wants the clone in her life and is just gonna forget about it. That's just the way I took it.
But in the end, like Jennifer Jason Leigh, I don't even know what happens to her. She's like, I can feel it inside me, and then she becomes like this light, and then this light thing becomes this like weird like holographic person. Like it's not a person. It's like a clone, not even a clone. And as soon as Natalie Portman touches it, it becomes her.
Yeah.
And they're literally the same. And she also has this tattoo on her arm.
Yeah, I don't really know what it all means, but I like it anyway. I just kind of like how ambiguous it is.
Yeah. Well, so basically, in the end, Natalie Portman outsmarts the clone, and she kind of blows it up, and then she goes back, and she's like, I want to see my husband, basically. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you're not my husband. And he's like, I don't think so. And she's like, are you Lena? And you have this quiet moment, and then her eyes kind of have this glow, like what the other, like, kind of like what everything else in Area X did. I guess we should also say she destroyed Area X, I feel like.
No, yeah.
She destroyed the lighthouse, destroyed all of, like, Area X. But then it's like, it's kind of like, nah, like, it kind of lives on. Because she tests her blood in the movie, and she says, it's inside me.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I think, like, she's not the clone, but she's a mutant.
Yeah, because
Area of X, and it's survived in her and in him.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that would have any, like, I would like to know, I wouldn't want a whole movie of it, but I want to know what happens to her afterwards, you know? Like, how this, being in this area affects her in the long term. I mean, I would just want, like, a paragraph or two from, like, they don't need to make that a whole movie, obviously, but just, like, a lot of interesting ideas.
Yeah, if you're looking for, like, a good sci-fi, thriller, like, suspense movie, Annihilation is great. All female, you know, cast, basically. And,
you know, people didn't think it was going to do well, because I know...
Really?
In America, it was in theaters. Oh, abroad, it just went straight to Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is really sad, because, like, the visuals are just so good. Like, you want to see it on a bigger screen.
Yeah. I can see. I saw it on my laptop, but I can definitely see how it would be cooler on a bigger screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say. I just really dig this movie.
I think cinematography was really great. Special effects were sick. I highly recommend. The plot is a lot harder to explain just because, like, it's hard to visually explain, like, what they see.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You gotta watch it with a clear mind.
Yeah.
Because if you watch it when you're tired, it'll mess you up, and you'll have nightmares, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Right.
And that ends Annihilation.
Yes.
And now that came out in 2018, by the way.
Yeah.
And our next 2018 best film of the decade is Widows.
Which I first saw just today, because I hadn't seen it before. It was something I wanted to get around to, though, because I heard really good things about it.
It was great. Viola Davis should have been nominated for an Oscar. She was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So many people were incredible.
It was the whole movie. It was just like an onion just being unpeeled, because I didn't know where it was going to go, and I was trying to figure out, like, how are these women connected to, like, the debate that's going to go on over one of the wards in Chicago.
Yeah.
The one thing that threw me off that I was in the beginning when they were just going through the lives of the men who were killed and their wives.
Yeah.
And I thought that, okay, this is just like a perfect snapshot of what their relationship is like, and you have like Viola Davis and Liam Neeson, and it's like a very loving relationship, and then you have the girl who's being like abused. And
that's
it's like
played by Elizabeth
Debicki. She was so good.
She was really good. Debicki or whatever her name is.
And they didn't go back to those flashbacks for a really long time, so I kind of only thought we were going to have the one, but then as we got deeper and deeper into the story, we realized that, like, Liam Neeson's character Harry is like a lot more deceiving than we thought he was, and that they had a child together.
Yeah, you don't know that, but
yeah.
if you have not seen Widows, you can tell by its title. It's about women widows, and basically, it's four. It's three.
4.
It's 4 widows,
but one of them isn't really involved.
It's really involved. So basically, what happens is these 4 men go to rob from this gangster. Is he a gangster? No.
Yeah, I think he was not Colin Firth's character, the other character.
Yeah, Brian. What is his name? Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, yeah.
His character. They steal $2 million from him, and when a standoff with the police, the car explodes with the money, and they can't. And all the husbands all die, and all the women are left with nothing. So like Elizabeth Debicki's character, like they had no more money. There's Michelle Rodriguez's character. They owned like a dress shop, and she realizes after her husband dies that her husband had all these gambling debts that he used for the rent for the shop, so she could no longer have it, so she has no income. And then for Viola Davis' character, she's kind of, I feel like, the most well off. Yeah. She still lives in a very nice apartment in Chicago until the guy who her husband stole from comes back and is like, I need the money.
Yeah, need $2 million in 1 month.
In 1 month. And she's like, I don't know what my husband was doing. And he was like, I don't believe you. You have to know what your husband was doing. Or like, you must know where the money is. You must have some money. Like, you live in this nice apartment. And basically he threatens her. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? And her driver, the driver.
Oh, I love the driver.
Basically gives her a key that has her husband's journal, and in the journal he's outlined this heist for Colin Farrell's house. Like, there's money in the house, but like, yeah. And she's like, okay, like this is how I'm gonna get the money. So she tries to recruit all 3 of the other widows, but she only gets 2 of them because the other one has a child, and she's like, no, I can't like involve you there. And basically this whole movie's about them like getting ready to this heist, and then they get a 4th woman played by, what's her name? Won a Tony.
But anyway, she works as like a hairdresser, and the hairdresser is also owned by Colin Firth's character.
Yeah. So there's this whole it was just really well done. Like you weren't expecting the ending, so in the end, like Liam Neeson's character is alive.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting. I was like, holy shit, how is he back?
Yeah, and he like kills the other men, like full on like. Fakes the police shooter. I don't have to fake the police shooter. He fakes it like...
He starts the shooting. And then gets out of the way.
Puts the car on fire, so everyone else dies and he lives. And then he basically picks his wife to steal the money so he can get it. It was not what I was expecting. And then in the end, freaking Viola Davis kills him, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, that part was crazy because... like, she's on the ground, and then, like, he's reaching for the gun, and the gunshot goes off, and it gets me every time. I'm like, oh my god, like, she shot, and then she's the one who took the shot, and I'm like, yeah, that's amazing.
Because also it shows, like, her growth. Like, so in the movie, like, she starts out as this kind of, like, cold, like, rich woman, and then you realize, like, the reason she's cold is because her son was killed by a cop in Chicago, and she obviously, like, that's a tough thing to get over. Obviously the husband got over it in a different way than she did. And that's why she's so kind of cold. But then, like, she kind of starts to stand up for herself, kills her stupid husband.
Yeah, and all the other characters really, like, grow into themselves, too. Like, Elizabeth Debicki's character, Alice, like, she's in this circle of just, like, abuse. First with, like, her mother, and then her husband.
And then once her husband dies, her mother.
Kind of Viola Davis, not to the same extent, but, like, the same having power over her. And
but I think also, like, Elizabeth, like, Debicki's character, like, clearly didn't, like, she had no agency. Yeah. You know, like, she didn't know how to, because she had been in this cycle, she didn't know how to, like, speak up for herself. And in the end of the movie, she does. Like, and then her and Viola Davis do become friends. But yeah, there is points where she's, like, Viola Davis is just like, come on, let's do this.
Yeah, there was a lot of tension between the group for a while. But I love the one scene where Alice, Elizabeth Debicki's character, goes into the gun shop, and she's, like, begging the woman. She's like, oh, like, buy me a gun. But she had, like, but she was just pretending. Well, no, she she was just acting out this whole scenario
Yeah.
to get the woman to buy her a gun, 3 guns.
Yeah, there's a good mix of like women using like their sexuality and their emotions like for them, and also like in a genuine way, but in a non-genuine way. It was like a good mix of that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Also, Daniel
Kaluuya.
I forgot his last name. Is in this movie as well. He's a pretty scary
Yeah, no, he's
guy.
crazy in this.
He's pretty crazy in this.
Mm-hmm.
But he's in this movie, so that's a good reason to watch as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I really liked this. I thought it was like good suspense. I thought all the women were like so well acted and so not one dimensional. They were like full fleshed out characters.
Mm-hmm. And I like how they would switch back and forth between really calm scenes and between really violent scenes. Just because like you had time to breathe, but also like it totally enhanced those violent scenes.
Yeah, it felt like claustrophobic where it's like, rip the driver.
Oh yeah, big shout out.
Big shout out to the Viola Davis's driver who only tried to help her and got killed in the process.
That's what happens in this world, you know.
That is.
Oh, and also the scene where Daniel Kaluuya was beating up the guy in the wheelchair.
That was unnecessary.
That kind of was unnecessary.
Why are you gonna do that? Was that at the bowling alley?
Yeah, that was.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Why are you gonna do that?
All right. Any other thoughts on Widows?
No, I highly recommend.
Yeah, I would
Who
too.
is it? Who directed it again?
Oh, it's Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen. He did 12 Years a Slave. I think,
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he did 12 Years a Slave. And
it was also written by Gillian Flynn as well. I think co-written. So if you're thinking like well-written female characters who are full of, rage and other emotions, Gillian Flynn's your girl.
Yeah.
She does it well.
Mm-hmm. All right. The next movie we're going to talk about also stars Daniel Kaluuya.
Get Out.
And it's Get Out.
Which is written and directed by Jordan Peele.
Mm-hmm. Which
if
really,
you don't already know that.
Yeah. This movie really put him on the map for horror. Like, making one horror movie, and everyone's like, oh, Jordan Peele's horror now. And he does it so well, though.
It also has Lakeith Stanford from Knives Out.
Yeah.
Look at this. Lakeith Stanford has had a good couple years. But, so, I feel like most people have seen Get Out. I actually watched this movie for an American Horror Stories class, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a whole essay on it.
Wait, what was your essay about?
I talked about how they used silence to create horror. So, not complete silence, but, no talking.
Yeah.
So they would use, the soundtrack to have that horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that important. We can continue. But if you haven't seen Get Out, basically it's where Daniel Kaluuya's character visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, and, shit gets weird.
Yeah.
And also, they're racist, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they would have voted for Obama for a third time.
For a third term. But really, they're not good people. At least the brother's definitely high-key.
Mm-hmm. And Allison Williams does not eat her cereal with milk. That's how you know she's also a psycho.
I feel like by that point, she was 100%.
Oh, yeah, we knew. Yeah.
So, the whole film, and how it was, I think, marketed was when I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this is a horror film thriller. I don't really do horror films, so I was like, I want to see it, whatever. And then I had to watch it for class. And then at that point, I was like, okay, don't be a wuss, it's for class. And I was like, oh, this is not, horror. This is,
more psychological
horror, which is something I can watch. I'm not a huge fan of jump scares. That's not what I like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really good, and it not only made you think, it was nothing that I would ever expect.
Yeah.
It was so original. I remember when we had our Oscar party, I was like, if Get Out, I was like, I don't know if Get Out's gonna win because the Oscar don't always vote for the correct movie. But I was like, in my opinion, I was like, Get Out should win. It was the most original movie that year, and I did win. And I was really happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never have thought of this, and it was so. It was just.
It was just all very well thought out.
It was very well thought out.
Yeah. The other part I really liked about that is all his friend who works for TSA.
Oh yeah.
Had a lot of funny moments.
Wait. Oh, that's Little whose name is pulling up. Howery.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, he was also really funny. There's so if you don't know, basically what happens is they find out that the family basically they do these brain transplants where they transplant the brains of their rich white friends into young African American people, and 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 they're no longer like
Yeah, their brain becomes trapped in the sunken zone after that, just like for all eternity.
For all eternity. And
then Allison Williams' character, he finds out, is constantly bringing home, like, or has a whole box of past boyfriends who are all black, and he kind of realizes, like, oh, this is what's going to happen to me, and, like, tries to escape, and is almost caught, but then manages to get out at the end.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh my gosh.
That was good.
So he ends up being victorious at the end, but there's another version that that Jordan Peele talked about where he doesn't get out.
Yeah, where he goes to jail. So at the end of the movie, he kills his former girlfriend. He's choking her, and there's a police car that comes. And I remember, because we watched this film, it was like a bunch of us from class were watching, and everyone was like, "Oh no!" Because your initial thought is he's a black man, he's killing. You can see he's a young white woman. There's no way he's not going to jail.
Yeah.
And then in the movie that they ended up showing was that it's actually his friend from TSA who's like, "I'm here to save you."
Mm-hmm.
But in another version where it's actually the cops, and he ends up in jail, and he's kind of like this cycle of oppression. There's not much he can do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would have made me so. That would have been. He said
horrible. It was too depressing, and I'm like, it is too depressing.
That is good call, Jordan Peele. Good call.
I agree with that.
But when I was watching this in the theater, there was just such a high energy. Like, the main character, Chris, like, you can just root for, like, you're obviously rooting for him. And there was just so much cheering and then so much typical, like, oh, don't go in there, don't go in there. So this was just, like, a very memorable showing for me.
It was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, I'm trying to think what else. Was it nominated for anything else? Wait, it was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
I like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So it doesn't start out with Daniel Kaluuya's character. It starts out with Lakeith Stanford's character, where he's just like walking down the street and he gets kidnapped, and they play this song. Keep talking. I'll find the song, but it's very specific. So I remember my teacher liked to talk about
I don't remember what the song was, but while you're finding that, I'll just give a shout out to the poster too, because I'm always a fan of a good poster. And also, like, the runtime isn't that long either. It's only 1 hour 44 minutes, where some of the movies today are just so long. And I'm just like, if you can make it like short and just be like bam, 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 keep the pace rolling, and which this movie totally does. Like, I can't think of a time where it's like, oh, nothing's really happening, or we don't need this scene. Like, it's all very necessary. Allison Williams is really good in it. Actually, everyone was just really good in it. And you don't really know what's going on, but just as it just gets worse and worse. Things continue.
So it's called Run Rabbit Run. That's the song, and it's written by Noel Gay and Ralph Butler, and basically it's like a super upbeat song, yet he's getting like kidnapped.
Yeah.
In the first scene of the movie. That's the cute scene. He obviously comes back and he like utters the title of the film to Daniel Kaluuya's character.
And did you also see Us?
I have not seen that. I remember I wanted to get free tickets to that.
Oh, right.
It did not win the thing. Yeah, I heard that's also like that's odd because the song's called like it has to do with rabbits. I know in that movie.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's sort of what I was just thinking.
What you're thinking of? Yeah.
Shall we move on to our last movie of the decade?
So our final 5th movie of the decade that we thought is best of the decade is you can't mention the decade without mentioning Wes Anderson. And our most favorite Wes Anderson film is The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Honestly, every frame of this movie could just be its own painting. It was so well shot, so detailed, and I always appreciate when a director just, you can tell just every single scene, looks at it and it's just like everything needs to be perfect, and that's so Wes Anderson to a T. Like, this is his most Wes Anderson movie for sure.
I agree. I really love this. I think this is one of the first Wes Anderson films I had seen. I don't even think I even saw it in theaters. I think I just like saw it on TV. Oh. And it has our favorite Saoirse Ronan in it. Literally love her. Cannot get enough.
Yeah, no, the cast in this is out of control because it's like Ralph Fiennes, Jude Law, Edward Norton, William Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum.
Willem Dafoe too.
I know, yeah, he was crazy in this.
Of course, those are like also like his classic actors. It's like Willem Dafoe.
Oh, Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton as the old woman. She's incredible.
Yeah.
I love the storytelling in this film. It feels very like not even fantasy but childlike in a way because the way the film is told is it's told as like a past tense. Like this little girl is like reading a book at a graveyard, and then the book is about this man going back to the hotel that he had once been to, and not this man. This guy goes in the hotel, and they see this man who I guess who worked at the hotel, telling him a story of what it once was. And you start out with this very like orange kind of 70s hotel, like a lot of concrete, and then you get into this world of like pastel pink.
I know. There's all these like miniature paintings and stuff, and it's just like all very.
It's very specific,
yeah,
but
very
in a well caught way. The food, like they also like. So Sharon's character is a baker, so they have like very precise like pastries and even like it's also funny, which was not like what I was expecting.
Oh yeah, because there's one scene I always think is so funny, and it's the concierge telling. I think who was the reporter? I think it was Jude Law who was like playing the reporter there, and all of a sudden this guy's choking just out of nowhere, and he's just like shit, and then has to run over. It's just like very good comedic timing.
Yeah, that's something Wes Anderson he does
really
well.
Good at.
Whereas like the lines themselves might not be inherently funny, but the way they're timed among like everything else happening in the movie, like it's pretty funny. Like there's the running gag where they're on the train and his like assistant named Zero is like an immigrant and he just has papers, and like they're sitting on the train and he's like, "Do you have your papers?" And they have this like look, like this really intense look, and it's like no, and then he starts like beating him up, and I'm like, oh great.
Yeah, Zero played by Tony Revolori. He did a very good job.
He's in Spider-Man as well.
Yeah. The other thing I like about this movie is that, well, going back, there's just so many details that I didn't recognize before. Like, during the first shot of the Grand Budapest Hotel, there's catacombs underneath the hotel. But did you see, like, all the bones? Yeah, there's, like...
Oh, no, I did. Yeah.
So it's just, like, details like that. And when the old lady dies and he's commenting on her skin routine and saying, like, oh, you changed your nails. They look so much better.
Oh, man, I love when there's a bunch of, like, cops there and they're talking to the concierge and Zero. Suddenly he just, like, straight up runs. Yeah. Runs away. Like, that's, like, some great community. He's, like, running in this huge hallway. It's like, how are they not going to get you?
Yeah.
I also love how he escapes from jail. So at some point, I think it's Gustav, his name, right?
Yeah.
He ends up in jail, and Zero with his girlfriend, Saoirse Ronan's character, basically, they give him pastries, and they're clearly shaped like tools. Like, it was like a knife and a hammer, but it was covered in, like, pastry. So they were like, of course they're not going to tell. And then everyone was like, cool. But that's just like some of the comedic things that are happening when they call the other concierge.
Yeah.
These little concierge, like secret society.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing that kind of reminded me of, because when I was watching Knives Out, I was like, I've seen this scene before, but I forget where. And it was in Grand Budapest Hotel when the old lady's giving away, like, all of her stuff, and Ralph Fiennes' character gets, what is it? It was like
the painting.
Boy with Apple.
Boy with Apple.
Boy with Apple.
Which is like the name of the most like basic painting of literally a boy with an apple.
Mm-hmm. But it's super famous and everyone wants it, and all the relatives are angry that he was the one who got it. And there's this one really funny scene where Zero wants to go look at the painting, and they're standing there together. And one of the things that a Lava Boy has to be good at is like interpreting what people want. So without even thinking, he runs over and grabs a stool for him to get up and steal the painting. I thought that was funny, and they replaced it with this other like erotic painting.
Yeah, erotic painting. Mm-hmm. And you can see like the dust of where the painting used to be.
Yeah, because they're two totally different
And the
shapes,
erotic painting like nowhere covers that, so it's just like a weird switch. Yeah. You're like, clearly something was taken there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a funny moment. I'm trying to think what else. It's just like very stylistic. Like there's a lot of weird zooms that I appreciate.
He's
like,
a good wide angle guy. Yeah. Well, I feel like all Wes Anderson films are very aesthetically pleasing, but I think this one is like my favorite.
Yeah, I think this is definitely my favorite Wes Anderson.
It's quirky enough because it's kind of its own world a little bit, where like this stuff didn't exist in like our own reality, but there's a point where like it does in his, and like it's so much in the past where like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's always the question that comes up. It's like, oh, if you could go to one movie location, like where would it be? And I feel like the Grand Budapest Hotel is a very good answer. It looks so much fun.
It's like this huge pink hotel on this like mountain, and like that's fun also because Wes Anderson does a lot with like mini models and stuff like that. You could tell like the wide shots of the Grand Budapest Hotel, like it's not CGI, it's just straight up a model, and I feel like that adds to like
it makes it so much better. And charm. Yeah. Because everyone's seen wide shots of, like, beautiful buildings before. And, like, yeah, they're beautiful. But, like, Wes Anderson is always trying to find something different to do. And I really appreciate that. And
he has, like, a really specific tone that I think plays throughout all of his films. Yeah. And it's just so, like, on the nose. Like, it works so well.
It makes them really rewatchable, too. Because Grand Budapest Hotel is, like, a very rewatchable movie.
I agree.
Okay, and the soundtrack for it? Freaking amazing.
I listen to the soundtrack when I study all the time. Yeah. It's so great. It's like so much fun.
And this year, or the year it was nominated, it was also running against The Imitation Game, and Alexander Desplat did both of those scores. So during my like Oscar bid, when I think I put Imitation Game, and they were like Alexander Desplat, and I'm like, which one is it? But I could definitely see why it went to Grand Budapest Hotel instead of Imitation Game, because without the soundtrack, like, the movie doesn't fall apart, but it just isn't the same movie. No,
it definitely isn't. No, I think because for Wes Anderson films, and especially this one, everything is so carefully chosen. Like the music, the costumes, the way they say everything. Like if one thing was off, it just wouldn't work. But because everything was so on point, it works so well together.
Yeah, it won for costume design, makeup and hairstyling, which it totally deserved. Music and production design. Oh, if they lost for production design,
they made a mini hotel. Yeah, like you can't not do that.
Oh, so good. And
it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, it's just very lighthearted.
It is. Yeah. Like even though there's like someone gets like they think Gustav murdered the old woman and like they're on the run and like even who does Gustav die? Yeah. And his like Saoirse Ronan's character, they both die. Yeah. It's still like super lighthearted.
Yeah, the one part that really broke me, like after knowing that Saoirse Ronan's character dies during the beginning and he's talking about his life, he's like, oh, we'll get to her later. And then they just follow her shot for so long, and even though they don't show his face, you almost feel like, oh, he wants to talk about her.
Because, like, that's the love. So I think Zero's the one telling the story.
Yeah, Zero.
So he's the one telling it back to Jude Law's character who wrote the book that the girl's reading in the...
so convoluted.
In the cemetery, just casually. And he's like, oh, yeah, we get married, and, like, 2-3 years later, she dies. And I'm like, no! They were so in love. And, like, so perfect for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite on this list out of these movies? I mean, it's hard to say because, like...
It's really hard because these are, like...
They're all very different.
Yeah. I feel like we should do honorable mentions of movies we've already talked about. So honorable mention of one of my absolute favorite movies of the year, it has to be Lady Bird.
Oh, I
love Lady Bird so much.
Yeah. Also, Shape of Water, which I really enjoyed. Oh, gosh. Now it's, like, hard to think.
I think those are good.
Yeah. What are movies you're looking forward to?
Oh, yeah. So, for the 2020, I'm looking forward to Little Woman coming. I'm seeing that Christmas Day. Looking forward to 1917.
Oh, I've heard such good reviews about that.
One shot of two guys in World War I. Let's go. Yeah. I'm here for it. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Christopher Nolan's Tenet. The trailer just came out today. So we're both very excited for that.
Oh, the next...
I think I'm confused. I'm intrigued. I wouldn't say I'm very excited. I'm intrigued. I will probably end up watching it.
You know that next Avatar movie's coming out? It's been 10
I thought
years.
it was 2021.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's 2 years away, but it's still next decade.
Still next decade.
Still next decade.
Oh, excited for Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah, that trailer
Let's
was
go.
good. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. That's the movies I feel like I've heard about the most.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, I guess we're gonna leave you here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and have a good rest of your
Happy
decade.
New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays.